Well, what a joy and a blessing to be here. When I was asked by Lisa if I might be able to do the service tonight, I just leapt through the phone saying, yes, 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 of course I can, of course I can. Such a joy to be with you again, and particularly on this night. I was thinking about all the things we do around this birth, and how pretty we make it. We make it around older children, lots of fancy cloth and colors and candles and incense and all these wonderful things. And we sort of smush the story together as it's sort of like when you go to the movies and they say, and 3 years later, which is kind of about the wise men. It wasn't quite so compact as our presentation. But it has all the elements of drama, and Luke loved that. He loved that. He loved to set a stage and then produce a message with all that background around it. And tonight he does some of his best work. Now he sets this whole context of Jesus being born, and I'm going to spare you anything political tonight, but I would say that the Roman soldier represents the political context, a very complex cultural and political setting in which this very humble family, a carpenter, unwed pregnant mother, a donkey, and a stable, produce the setting that we've dressed up so well tonight. And Jesus' life ends in an encounter with all of the politics of Rome and the priesthood and the temple and the Pharisees and the people and the thieves. And it begs the question, do we pretty it up so much that we miss the point sometimes? Because I would say that the birth of Jesus was a messy affair. Now, I was blessed to attend the birth of both of my children. My firstborn was a son. I was called to be the associate rector of Trinity Church in Galveston, Texas, and we had to move when Jill was 8 months pregnant. The rector had to go lean on an OBGYN that was a member of the congregation and said, "You have to take her as a patient, they're coming." And we moved, and a month later, the process of birth began. Now, we had gone to the class, and I knew I was the coach, I knew the breathing patterns, we had practiced, I had it all down what my part was, and I was all ready, and we went to the hospital. We went in, and we were put in this maternity ward in John Seeley Hospital that was a big tile-lined room with a bunch of separated stations. There must have been at least 13 or 14 women in labor in that room. With all the machines, the groaning and the moaning, and me going, "Breathe." It was chaos. It was chaos. And then the time came, and we moved to our private room, finally, where the birth was to take place. And all of that, all of you who have ever been part of this know what I'm talking about. This is the point at which, as a man, I'm going, what have I gotten myself into? And why am I in this room? And then I said one too many times, "Breathe." And she said some things to me that aren't appropriate for a sermon. So I kind of stood back and let Dr. Little take it from there. But as you know, out of pain and gore and mucus and blood and yuck came Ryan. And I let them do the cleaning up and the swaddling clothes and all of that. But when they put that little child in my arms, it was a divine moment. It was divine. And I'm sure for Jill, it was an immense relief that that child had finally left her body. But there was nothing pretty about it. There were no angels singing, no choir with hymns. They certainly didn't allow incense in the birthing room. And yet it was so much more sterile, so much safer than the birth that Mary went through in a barn that smelled of cows and sheep and manure and had none of the sanitary efforts that modern medicine might provide. So the first miracle is that they both survived, the child and the mother. The first miracle. And the second miracle is the manger scene that's on my piano, in which she goes immediately from having given childbirth as a teenager to her first child to sitting kind of kneeling in this wonderful medieval costume with a beatific face, looking down at a child in a manger along with one of the wise men also. It's a quite elegant set. All the people are about this big and dressed in real cloth. So he's all in brocade with his present there. And the baby is about the size of a 2-year-old. And they're all white. What can I say? We all see God in our own image. But in fact, the birth of Jesus was intended to help us see ourselves in God's image. We get it backwards all the time. I want God to belong to my political party. I want God to approve of my lifestyle. And I want God to be pleased with the amount of money I'm willing to contribute to his church. I want to be approved of. And yet, what did the first hymn we sang say, but that he was born that our sins might be taken away? And that is the sin of wanting God to look like me. I want God to believe like me. I want God to think like me. I want my morality to be God's morality. And in that way, I am fully approved and stamped for heaven, ready to go. Except in a deep place in myself, I know that's not the truth. The truth is, and I just had this conversation with Gail, who says hello to all of you. She's on call tonight as a nurse. That the difficulty of living my life has been that I want to be the sanctified hero saint, and I want to sin when I need to. And sometimes even when I want to. I have this battle within myself that Paul said, we battle with the flesh. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And God knows that's what my life has felt like. Over and over and over again. Now, a lot of it's just been banal, however you want to say it. It's been boring. Work, food, sleep, bathe, brush my teeth, work, You know, a lot of days where it didn't seem like much of anything important was happening. And yet, what I do in those days is vastly important. You see, what happens in a birth is you're entirely focused on one thing. I didn't think about politics in the delivery room. Did any of you women who've given birth, did you think about politics when you were giving birth? Raise your hand. Okay, none. You don't think about what's for dinner. You don't think about your salary. You're just thinking about, breathe. And that's what all this dressing up of the birth is about, is to say, focus for just a moment. Let everything else go for just a moment, for just a little while. Be like children. Be like children. Be in wonder. Be thinking, I wonder what God is up to tonight. And then the second question, I wonder how he would like me to participate. The call comes at the most unexpected time, in the midst of the most boring or in the most intense and unexpected ways. But if we don't practice listening and focusing during the boring times, we might miss it. So those of you who are Christmas, Easter Christians, and we're happy to have you here, and no judgment, but I want to say we got more to offer to you than just Christmas and Easter. And what it is a set of practices of prayer and discipline and choosing the right thing when I want to choose the wrong thing. And when I choose the wrong thing, coming and saying, I'm sorry, God, help me do better next time. And prepare me and help me here so that when the moment comes that God calls upon you to give birth to Jesus, now listen to me. When he calls upon you to give birth to Jesus in an unexpected moment, that you're like Mary. You're ready to say, here I am, Lord, I am your handmaiden. Not my will, but thy will be done. For only in that way will the rest of the world ever believe that Jesus was born in the first place. Otherwise, they're all stuck with Christmas trees and Santa Claus and sleighs and reindeers, all of which is fun. I don't have anything against it, but it's not the message. Focus for just a moment tonight that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, so that those who lived in darkness might find the light, so that those who are oppressed might find freedom, so that those who are blind might find sight, those who can't hear can hear, and those who are in prison are set free. It started in the manger. It started before the manger when Mary and Joseph said, okay, if that's what you think, we'll do it. Make yourselves ready to give birth to Jesus in the most unexpected moments of your life.